Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 35, Episode 2 of War. In this war, I learned that the most important thing in war is not how well you play, it's how much Kabam wants to screw you. So, in this fight, this is my first fight of the war, and I don't know how to describe it other than in this fight, my device didn't work. Right here, I'm trying to do 5-hit combos. That was a 5-hit combo, but you can see it a little bit, but you could feel it so much that it was just lagging. None of my inputs seemed to be working. So I'm going in, I tried to attack there. Nothing happened. This was supposed to be a 5-hit combo. I only got 3 hits. I was supposed to dex there. Nothing happened. And so now I'm just freaking out, right? So that was supposed to be a 3-hit combo into SP2. And there's just nothing. Nothing's happening. So right there, you could see I minimized the game, came back into the game, flipped my phone over to see if it was an input issue of some sort. And now in this fight, I'm just doing parries and 1 or 2 hits. Basically, if I see that that stun has worn off of him, I'm just not attacking because I don't know if my device will allow me to attack. I thought this was my device, but about a day later, people actually said that they were having a similar issue. And so I guess it's not. I did restart my device and it did start working after this, but gosh, this was infuriating. And so right there, that was supposed to be a 5-hit combo or a 3-hit combo into an SP2. I tried to tap the SP2 button. I didn't. I dashed back, managed to avoid dying. And then I must admit, I did actually make a mistake by trying to parry and then attack. With Blade having around 2 bars of power, that can be a dangerous thing. So there was a mistake I made there, but it would have been easy to survive if Kabam hadn't screwed me out of, the first 80% of my life or something like that. So lesson learned is restart your device before you start, I guess. Here in fight number 2, it's Omega Sentinel versus Havok. This was a much longer fight than I thought it was going to be. So right there I have 8 plasma, and this is double time, by the way. Actually, this is 3x time, because there's nothing interesting here. It's a super safe fight. It's power snack Havok, but she's nullify immune, so there's nothing that can go wrong here. You can see, it's just taking time. He was throwing a lot of medium combos, which was preventing me from parrying and heavying, and that was kind of slowing me down, but it was fine. So this fight is where I learned that maybe I'm not the best war planner. So I picked this fight. Basically, I have Omega Sentinel here on Hazard Shift, Shock, and Bleed. But in this, it looks like this is slow motion now, because it was 3x before. So in this fight, I have Shock and Bleed, but I have an Odin pre-fight for shock resistance on me, which is actually a totally legit thing, and I've done it before. I've taken shock resistant APOC on this lane before, and I thought this would be really good because Omega Sentinel has tracking, so I can ignore Longshot's global mechanic by just keeping a tracking buff on him the whole game. But you can see that right there, my tracking fell off. Right at the beginning of the fight, the tracking also fell off. Or sorry, I failed to apply the tracking. The other thing on this node is one eye open. So I didn't parry and medium to start. In retrospect, I probably should have. The damage you take from one eye open isn't that bad. So if I had just started with parry, medium, and then tried to play stun immune, I could have avoided taking that initial 40% damage or whatever. So now I have this fight under control. But what I didn't realize going into this, when I was planning this out, is that the regens that I get from being bled, Omega Sentinel, whenever she gets a bleed or a poison, she takes 0 damage from it and gets a regen buff. So what I didn't realize was that if that buff falls off, I'm going to be feeding Mystic Dispersion, like the old school power one, not the one where you miss, although also that one. But I'm going to be feeding the power one. So he had a lot more power in that fight than I anticipated. You can see it was still perfectly safe. After that combo I took at the beginning, I took maybe 10% health. So not a big deal, but certainly not what I was trying to do when I started that fight. So right here, we've got hazard shift, shock, and bleed again. This is bishop. It's a pretty common placement that we see here. I've seen it for a long time. Basically, what they're trying to do is, I guess, two things. One is bishop's a hard defender, and so you want to put something tough on this lane. But also what it's trying to do is counter kingpin. So a very common counter for the entire hazard shift lane is to just run kingpin and hood, and then just take the entire lane and ignore all the nodes. It's very powerful. So you'll see Havocs or Bishops on this lane, which punish you for purifying debuffs, so that you can't take Kingpin or Mole Man or Jabari Panther onto this lane. You still can, but it certainly is a effective counter. But Angela is just taking this fight slow and steady. You can see that you saw that I took a special 2 at the beginning. I think that's fine. I'm usually pretty good at dexing it, but if it were unblockable, it could have been a problem, and she's not going to have any problem at all with the incinerates off the SP1. So I decided to just stick to special 1s, taking SP1s on the block and just playing it super safe. So this is the next one where I learned that I'm not so good at war planning. Again, this is a matchup that I picked, and I thought, okay, Omega Sentinel, she has a ton of buffs, and Nimrod, I know Nimrod has a ton of buffs, but Omega Sentinel has like a ton of buffs, so surely I'll be winning the richest richer fight this whole time. That wasn't as true as I thought it would be. You can see right now we're tied, but basically every time I throw a special, he starts winning. And there's a couple times where he gets right there, he got to 2.5 bars, which is more than I want him to have. So, like, was this fight really ever in danger? I doubt it. She's, with 10 armors, she's just such a tank that she can take a ton of punishment. And now that I have 6 incinerates on, it's fine. I took a SP1, didn't miss the full dex there, but she took barely any damage from that. The other thing is I'm not boosted here. As I said before, SSX isn't going super hard, so I'm not boosting, I'm not healing fully, but I am trying to take the fight seriously at least. And now we have this last fight. This is Immortal Abomination on the Conflictor mini-boss. Once again, like, I think this is a fine fight, but it's probably not the best counter, and I probably shouldn't have been the one taking it. So Angela's super safe against poison, no problem there. But she just didn't have the damage output that I would have liked, and also because of Conflictor, I was constrained to not throwing my specials until he had 12 poisons. Once he has 12 poisons, he can't cause Conflictor on himself. That's why you place Immortal Abomination here. He causes poisons on himself, which trigger Conflictor, which then give him power. And if he gets to SP2, even if you are poison immune, or you can ignore poisons or whatever, even if you have that, you still run the risk of taking a bunch of damage, and he can do a bunch of damage to you. That was me making a mistake coming out of the special 3. Oops. So now I'm going to be able to stay, now that he has 12 and I can control when Conflictor triggers, I'm going to be able to control which buff I'm getting. I want to stay in between 1 and 2 bars of power, so I'm getting that big fury. The other thing I learned about this node is I had sort of ignored the prowess puncture node before, but it kind of is important, so that's important to keep in mind. Anyway, I came out of this fight just fine. I didn't take that much damage, but it wasn't super easy either. And then at the end here, you have my season score. I've decided that it's 10, 1, and 2. So 10 wins, 1 death, and 2 where Kabam just took points from me. Technically, it's 10 and 3, which is not good, but I do like to think it's 10, 1, and 2 because 2 of these deaths that were recorded on my account, I don't think were my fault. That's it for this war. Once again, if you liked it, I'm glad. If not, it was just for me to learn. Have a good one.